Probando. ¿No?
Con su voz, entonces.
Are we live?
¿Se oye? ¿Se oye?
No, we're having mic problems.
¿No? Hola, 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 hola. Hola, hola, hola. ¿Se oye? Sí, sí. Hello, good evening. I'm Gonzalo, the interpreter. Most of you already know me. We offer simultaneous interpreting for this event and any other event where we are needed all over the district. So, muy buenas tardes, noches a todo el mundo. Desde el centro de bienvenida ofrecemos interpretación simultánea en este evento y en todos los eventos en los que nos necesita en el distrito. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Let's do it. Okay. Oops, is this live? Okay.
Can we get a little more volume if we can?
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. First up, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next up is I'm looking for a motion with the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve tonight's agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, next up, board business, district leadership team, superintendent's report.
So, Mr. Chairman, first I'll start by summarizing. We had 5 commenters in the listening session which just concluded. Jamie Henderson talked about the differences in perception that each student and each adult brings to each situation, had a proposal for a research project. We'll work with her after the meeting. Carrie Filatico and Jeremy Bishop and a student presented on the STORM robotics team and their recent success, earning lots of awards. There was discussion as well about how they fund. Sarah Anderson, parent, talked about Sodexo Foods, expressed some dissatisfaction there. And Liz Craig, GAACE president, spoke about the MOU that they signed recently with the district, testifying at the state capitol on several issues. The food service contracting out, request for us to work jointly on a mentorship program to look at how that mentorship program, which exists in Lebanon, advances the training of the classified staff. Finally, Mr. Cordier spoke about specifically funding and just the methodology that we use to teach math in the district and his perceptions of that at a time when he was a volunteer. That's it. We'll go to the superintendent's report. So just to kind of review a little bit about where we are in the news, you guys have seen a lot. I know patrons of the district have been fairly concerned about what may happen at the federal level. On February 14th, we did receive a Dear Colleague letter from the U.S. Department of Education. This spoke about DEI programs and how those programs need to be shut down to avoid loss of federal funding. A Dear Colleague letter from an assistant undersecretary in the Department of Education was a source of this. That happened on February 14th and caused much consternation. On March 3rd, the U.S. Department of Education, again the same office, the Office of Civil Rights, clarified DEI in schools, and it said schools with programs focused on particular cultures, heritages, and areas of the world would not in and of themselves violate Title VI, assuming they are open to all students regardless of race. We want to assure you that any of the groups that we run to support students in the district are open to all students. Violations do not depend on the use of specific terminology such as diversity, equity, or inclusion. In other words, some of the Dear Colleague letter has been walked back. March 3rd as well, the Secretary of Education was confirmed by the U.S. Senate and with the mission to return education to the states. And so we still anticipate that there could be funding challenges, and we will begin to plan for those in our budget, particularly the federal funds, IDEA, the Students with Disabilities, as well as the different title grants that the district receives, most notably Title I, which focuses on reading. Our work right now will continue to focus on meeting the needs of the students in the district, plain and simple. It will not be to run ahead, but just continue to move forward. And we will continue to navigate the sometimes conflicting directives from the state and the federal government. Next page. We wanted to get back to you as board members. We did hear a report on middle school sports, presentation from the wrestling. I want to just share that we met with the Albany Boys and Girls Club and YMCA directors last week. They are supportive of basketball and wrestling at the middle school level. Gives us an opportunity to overcome participation barriers by school. One of the things that we noticed in the wrestling participation at present is the club is at Memorial. It has a large number of North Albany Middle School students. It has a large number of Memorial Middle School students, very few from Calapooya and from Timber Ridge. And we want to make sure that students across the district are accessing and participating in those sports. And that was specifically wrestling that was presented and shown by numbers. We also, in the course of meeting with the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA director last week, came to understand that there are many teams that are developed that are meeting and participating. Most of those students are pointed towards West Albany as a high school. And so we know we need to do something to create greater representation in our Calapooya students and our Timber Ridge. There are a couple of barriers there, one of which is all of our middle schools end school at about 3 o'clock. Timber Ridge is one of our late closing schools. They close at 4 o'clock each day, which is going to put them significantly out of alignment. So we will be working on those things as we approach the 25-26 budget. And we really want to create more teams more broadly across the district. For students to only play in a club team means that the very first thing they're going to have to do is come up with hundreds of dollars just to get on the team. And we want to make sure that it's an opportunity that can come to kids at less cost. That's all I have for tonight. I'll turn it over to Jane Nofziger.
Good evening. At the last board meeting, you asked that I bring to you the PERS information. And so on this slide, it shows the 3 types of tier of PERS expenditures that we have. The first one is the PERS UAL, and that is our unfunded actual liability. And that is a liability with PERS that covers people who have already retired and future retirees. And that is a percentage of payroll. And you can see it is increasing by 4% in 25-26 and will be $15.7 million. The PERS 6% pickup is the retirement fund that goes into the IAP accounts of our employees. And that increase is based on the salary increases that we are incurring. And you can see for 25-26, that's projected to be $4.5 million. The last one is our PERS bond. I believe it was 2007, the district bonded the debt towards the UAL fund. And the debt service for that, the principal and interest, is shown. It's about $5 million. And so the total, the number I was asked for 25-26 is $25.6 million. And the next slide, I just wanted to take you through the PERS bond information. So across the time from 2007 through the end of it in 2028, that bond will have saved the district $16,432,000. So it was a really good deal. It worked well. When the bonds were sold, the interest rates worked in favor of the district. And the rate credit that we have received from having those funds is how the 16 million was paid back to the district. So you can see the rate credit percentage going down. Currently, 24-25, it's 8.7%. And as that balance decreases and as our payroll increases, that rate credit will go to 0. So you can see in 25-26, it will be down to 6.2%. So the next line shows the debt service again. And then the rate credit savings in the next line were 23-24, it was 1.3 million, 24-25, 1.1 million. Projected for 25-26, the debt service increases above the rate credit by 719,000. And so at the end of the bond, the rate credit is 0, and so that debt service is negative 1.9. We do have a beginning fund balance in that fund. It was something Russ Allen had started, probably in knowing this was coming, and I had left that in the fund and tried to add to it. So we will utilize that to help offset the loss. In 25-26, plan to use $250,000. 26-27, we'll use $475,000. And then 27-28, when we have the most loss, we would use the balance of that fund, and it will take it down to 0. Are there any questions on the PERS? Lots of numbers. It's a complicated system.
So for a year, it's about 26 million?
Yes.
And I thought this coming year, they thought it was going to increase the rate. Is that not true?
It did. It increased 4%.
Thank you.
So,
Go ahead, Roger.
so 26 million on how much in actual payroll, dollar to dollar, in compensation, if you will? Is it, what are we spending on compensation in round numbers? 80 million, 90 million? It's probably less than 100 million. We don't know.
I think it's more than that. I think it's like almost like 85, if I
80.
remember right. Does that sound right?
Percent.
Andy? I'm trying to remember.
So,
I'll look it up while you're talking.
okay, so yeah, so the number that I try to get to is what percent of payroll are we paying out in PERS? And 25 million equates to, I mean, we just need.
So our total payroll costs for next year will be 42% with the PERS and FICA, Medicare, all of that. So for every dollar, we spend 42 cents on payroll costs next year.
That would not include insurance, would it?
No.
So when you add insurance, we're probably $1.75, $1.80.
So for classified, it's a little over 50%. And license is just below 50% when you add in insurance.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I would just add another reminder. PERS bonds like this one are opportunities that come around once every 5 or 6 years because interest rates are low, and we can get a bond at a rate that then pays us back. It takes an ending fund balance to qualify to get the best rate, which is one of the reasons why we keep an ending fund balance like we do.
I had a question similar to that, or off a similar point. So we have the beginning fund balance that was in this account that will be basically going to 0 by 2028. So at that point, we will not be able to get a good rate on a PERS bond, correct? Or is it ending fund of the entire budget, or the general fund?
So the reason I was taking that to zero is because that was put into the fund to pay the debt service, and the debt service goes to zero.
Gotcha.
So the fund balance and the debt service go to zero the same year.
And PERS bonds are offered to all districts and some get into it. I think we've had 3 in 25 years where the opportunity was just right and a pool was created.
Yes.
Right? So you had to be ready at that time to do it.
So there's one more slide, not on PERS, but Dave just wanted me to share again. I had shared this with you previously. Just this projection is based on the RFP that Genuine Foods provided to us. And it shows that there's lots of assumptions, lots of projections, but it does show us that we maintain our ending fund balance. And it's based on the assumptions in Genuine Foods that our participation will increase a little bit. And it includes the salary COLA increases. So all of the pieces that we do know are a part of this. And our ending fund balance goes from 1.6 to 1.5. And that's where we want it to be, because if it's above that, the state tells you have to take it down. You can't have more than 3 months expenditures in your food service federal fund.
Any questions? Thank you. Appreciate that on PERS. Okay, board reports. Brad?
Hi, as you all know, we're gearing up for election time. And this Sunday I was invited by the union and got a couple of representatives here to go and meet with them. And I had filled out a questionnaire and got to go there, and they were very polite. It was a nice experiment. No, Liz is laughing at me, but it was like, no, it was fun. Yeah, and they have a new facility, which I think you're going to really like. It looked like a really nice building, so I hope it'll serve you well. And just looking forward to the results and how those come out, and looking forward to the election. So that's all I got.
You have anything, Roger?
I would defer to the student members and maybe follow up once they're done if they don't cover, but I yield for now.
Yield for now. Okay, go ahead.
Well, hello, I'm Part from South Albany. First of all, I want to acknowledge our unified basketball from last month. I believe they made it first place in championships. Don't quote me on that. We have Pride Week a week before spring break, which stands for Perseverance, Respect, Integrity, Discipline, and Excellence. It just gives an opportunity for our students to practice and learn these 5 attributes, and it's just fun for them to dress up. We have state finals for our girls basketball that they made it this Wednesday, and we'll have a Rooter bus to Linfield University. They will be picked up at 4:45, and the game will start at 6. We have March Madness happening during lunch, and senior happenings such as the senior scholarship deadlines this Friday. We also have senior banners, which are $65. Parents who are hearing, please donate money. Well, not all of us can afford it. Band and color guard and choir are going to see if they qualify for state. Choir specifically is going to George Fox this Friday. And then going back to testifying, as Gaia had mentioned, 6 of our AVID students testified at the Capitol to see if we qualify for a $10 million grant. And we're hoping to use this money well and create greater leaders and grow as leaders as well. That's all.
Thank you.
So for West Albany, I believe our boys basketball team is playing their quarterfinals against Wilsonville this Thursday, and the girls team is playing against Silverton in their playoffs this Wednesday. The Albany Performing Arts Center is putting on The Sound of Music this week, the 13th through the 15th. Career Day is this Wednesday. So a ton of people from the Albany community will be visiting and, just sharing their careers with students and hopefully potentially to get them interested in that. And also our Cultural Diversity Day is coming up mid-next month. Thank you.
very well done. I have nothing to add.
Okay. I would share one of the things that's going on that's on my mind is the Oregon legislature is got a lot of bills going, and some of them are great, and some of them are kind of concerning because they are great ideas, but they don't come along with money, and that kind of affects us a lot, you know. And I would say, unfortunately, some of the laws, at least in education here in Oregon, in the last few years, have hurt us, you know, have made it hard for us to do things, you know. And due to that fact, you know, it makes it harder to provide a good education for our youth, and that's disappointing. Next up, committee, community, and school presentations, school resource officer report. Andy.
Gives me great pleasure to acknowledge the presence of our two school resource officers. Gina is also here. Jen Williams, of course, is the presenter as well, and they have a presentation for you gentlemen tonight.
Jen, I understand you're a Viking fan. I live with one, so. Okay. 100%.
I actually got to attend 2 games this season.
Very cool. Good for you.
Yes. It was a dream come true.
There's your partner helping you out.
So basically, you know, collaboration with schools and staff is a critical part of our role, whether it's assisting with crisis response, conducting safety drills, or providing trainings on topics like fentanyl, internet safety, and career day within the schools. We work closely with our educators and administrators to ensure that we have we're proactive in creating a secure learning environment. And so while we've made great strides in improving school safety, there's a lot of challenges still ahead. I know that the district is working on changing out the blinds in starting that process in schools. We've had you know, issues throughout the district with either ones not working or ones having broken mini blinds so that an intruder could possibly see into the classrooms. So I know that that's in the works. And also, I met with David Bolin earlier in the school year. Once I actually was embedded in West Albany High School, I noticed during our lockdowns that their key ring is quite large for the school. And for the new side, there's one key or two keys actually that really that can get you into those classrooms on that side. And on the old side, there's several classrooms that have multiple keys down the hall for different doors. So in an instance where we're responding to lockdown situations and things like that, I had talked with David about maybe doing sections instead of obviously rekeying the whole school, which would be very costly. So we're looking into that. Also, in my 26 years doing this, I've built strong relationships with community partners, and when I came into this position 3 years ago, that even expanded. So with that, I've been collaborating specifically with, for 2 students that are in the district with LBL ESD, DHS, Lynn County Mental Health, and to really, these are students that have struggled both with behaviors and developmental disabilities, and working with the parents to find out, is there any services that they're missing to help them within the school day that maybe they aren't getting that we can support with. And these are also folks that they don't belong in detention, they don't belong in the juvenile justice system, so we're trying to figure out how to really make their school day work so that it's less workload on the police department as well. And then lastly, this spring, we're working with the Albany Safety Foundation to re-implement the BULB program. I don't know if any of you guys remember what that was. Don't ask me what it stands for because we've renamed it, but it used to be a time during, I believe it was every quarter, where we would get students from different middle schools. We would take them in a limo, take them bowling, and they'd get a certificate at the police department. The Albany Safety Foundation really wanted, since COVID, to re-implement that, and so we did it. We are doing it, and we changed it to LEAD, which is Learn, Engage, Achieve, and Develop with Law Enforcement. And so to start out this spring, Officer Bell and I will make contact with 2 of the 4 middle schools initially this semester, and get with the school administrators and choose 2 students that will be presented a certificate of achievement by the chief of police, and then we will take them bowling and pizza and then drive them back to their respective schools. And this is a way for us to acknowledge their achievements and the good things that they're doing. That's what I have. Anybody have any questions about that? What I presented?
Yeah, real quick, I appreciated the sort of the analysis of the infrastructure there at West on the lines and the keys. Is that something that you guys have done in all of our buildings or will do?
No, West specifically has the most keys.
Yeah.
Most of the, especially like the middle schools and the grade schools are pretty small key rings, and it's not hard to have a master on, because we have keys in we have a key ring in every school by the door.
Okay.
So that we can access those if we need to right away without having to contact staff and say, hey, can we get a key?
Cool.
So we have those. This is just something that where the old side, you could go down one hallway and there you could use 3 different keys going down the hallway. So
And I assume you have badges that open all the badge opening doors.
Yep.
Okay.
We all have that.
So then maybe besides just the key thing, do you have conversations with the principals about this is a concern, you're in good shape here, you might want to think about from a safety sort of lockdown perspective?
Yeah, and Mr. Engel is aware, and I think a lot of the teachers that or staff that are there have just gotten used to, oh, if I'm going to this door,
Sure.
I use this key. It's not a problem for them. It's just turns out to be an issue for us when we're trying to be in a hurry, figuring out what key goes to what door.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Gina?
Thank you.
Hello. Good evening.
Who's your team?
Dodgers. 49ers.
All right.
Dodgers first. So I was going to present one of the bigger, more public calls that we received since our last school board meeting, which was the bomb threat at Albany Options School a little over a month and a half ago. To summarize it, an email was sent to administrators the night before school started, and then that morning when administrators learned about the email, they acted quickly. They contacted Jen, they contacted me, they contacted Bruce, specifically Principal Hannon, and I wanted to thank Bruce and Principal Hannon for their quick action that day, especially getting on the phone with buses and our dispatch and our supervisors, the collaborative effort that we all took to ensure that the students were safe that morning, not only at Albany Options School, but at Sunrise Elementary, which is just across the street, was awesome. First and foremost, we kept students away, but ultimately, I said I'd keep it short. Ultimately, we did locate a suspect who is a juvenile, who is not a part of the Greater Albany School District. They are out of Benton County. So after a number of search warrants and item seized, we learned that this specific youth that we believed was our suspect, in fact, was our suspect, and he was charged with 2 counts of disorderly conduct in the first degree. And through investigation, we have learned more information that has allowed us to continue the investigation for the specific student in other locations. So yeah, that's what I was going to present. I also wanted to say, oh yeah, we do have spring lockdowns coming. We just started last week. We changed our schedule a little bit for this set of lockdowns, which allows us to have a more regimented week as far as getting our work done as well. So we limited the lockdowns to Tuesdays and Thursdays, where we conduct 3 lockdowns a day, 2 elementary schools and 1 secondary school per day. And last week was very effective, not only for us, but also for patrol officers who assist us in those lockdowns. Does anyone have any questions about those? No?
Thank you very much.
Lastly, I did want to say, this is Officer Williams' last school board meeting. She's retiring in April. She'll work back for a couple of months, but at our next school board meeting, we'll have another school resource officer. So just wanted to say thank you for your work and love you.
Okay, school reports. Meadow Ridge is first. Bruce.
I'd like to introduce Mr. Chris Sullivan to present Meadow Ridge and the amazing programming they have going on at one of our elementary schools.
All right. Thanks for the invite, everyone. Yeah, I'm Chris Sullivan, here to represent the awesome staff and students at Meadow Ridge. When it gets up there.
You need my glasses.
I might, although this isn't the presentation. Hopefully it'll, work. Uh-oh. You don't have the updated one? Yeah, can you share it with? Uh-oh.
The one page here. I believe this is the one you sent.
There's something on the next page in my.
Oh, let's see. Let's. Oh no, this is backwards. Oh my. Who could we share this with so we have the correct one? Becca? Can you share it with Becca Mallory?
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
We'll get it all figured out.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah?
That's fine. Work.
Okay.
All right. Never mind. I'll be
Next,
back.
next up, Periwinkle.
That takes care of stage fright, Caitlin.
Yeah, just throw me up.
There you
Hi,
go.
good evening.
I'd like to introduce Caitlin Lindsay, principal at Periwinkle. First off, Caitlin, thank you for welcoming us to your school today.
Yes, I'm glad you guys
I know
are here.
So it's great to be here, and thanks for being flexible and making some changes.
No
Appreciate
problem.
it.
No problem. Well, thanks for having me and coming to Periwinkle. So the main vision and mission of us here at Periwinkle is that we provide a positive, safe, and welcoming learning environment where staff and students unite to share a commitment to growth and learning for all. Our core values are really centered around creating a school that's encouraging, engaging, and student-centered. Let's see if oh. To start off with, we have our 3 goals. Our first goal is centered around increasing reading proficiency. We are aiming by the end of June, or by the time school gets out in June, to increase the number of students identified at or above benchmark in reading. We started the year with 26% of our students kindergarten through 5th grade at or above, and we would like to move that to 48% using iReady reading data. To achieve that, we've implemented daily reading interventions in small groups with support from our SEAs. We have a flooding model, so all of our SEAs, as long as they're not doing duties, they are supporting all of our classes. We have between 5 to 7 SEAs supporting each grade level, in addition to their classroom teachers. Then, as needed, we have our resource staff, so those working with our SPED students joining in as well. So from anywhere from kinder to 5th grade, we have 10 to 12 adults working with our students. And additionally, we have a focused, data-driven MTSS system to provide targeted interventions at the Tier 3 level. So when interventions are not working for our students, In our reading intervention block, we have an interventionist and a couple SEAs that really target our tier 3, the ones that are 2 years or more behind in grade level, giving them an additional dose of intervention. With title funds, we're able to provide half-day planning sessions and learning walks that support teacher collaboration and instructional growth. Those learning walks are really focused around the CEL 5D right now, where teachers are picking an area that they are interested in and going to a neighboring grade level and observing, really getting practice looking at the rubric, in addition to looking at instructional strategies that they can bring to their own classroom. And then we provide explicit feedback and pacing improvements in our reading intervention to our classroom teachers and our SEAs. We do a lot of professional development for our classified staff because we really are treating them like the classroom teachers. Without them, our reading scores wouldn't be growing as well as they are. And we're already seeing that progress. With Winter Benchmark, it showed that 38% of our students are now at or above benchmark, so almost to that end of year goal. And more importantly, 51% are on track to meet their typical growth goal, meaning they make 1 full year's worth of growth, and 34% are aiming to reach their stretch growth goal, which is meaning they're making above or more than 1 year worth of growth, which if you have students that are behind 1 year or 2 years, you want them to be meeting those stretch growth goals 2 to 3 years at a time. Our second goal is around social emotional learning and is focusing on the whole child, focused in on increasing our spring DESA scores and attendance. We are doing that by providing daily SEL lessons, incorporating sources of strength, CELSOs, and zones of regulation. We're providing targeted attendance support through celebrations and data-driven interventions, and that's supported by our office staff, by our SEAs, and by our behavior staff. And then we're providing DESA skill groups led by our school counselor and SEAs that are trained in those programs to help students develop emotional regulation and resilience. Again, we've already seen increase in those DESA scores rising from 77% in the fall to 82% in the winter. And our regular attendance improved from 62% at the end of last year to currently 68%. Then we go on to math. And our goal for math was to increase our students that were at or above benchmark from 10% to 37%. To reach that goal, we have implemented daily adaptive math practice with our iReady MyPath. We are one of the title schools that were able to purchase that for our whole school for individualized support, and it adds another layer of intervention. All of our students participate in that MyPath. It gives them the iReady test and then creates individualized instruction, and they participate in that 10 to 15 minutes a day, or they have a weekly total. We have started math interventions with SEA support in every classroom, and we are using intervention math curriculum named Bridges and Do the Math. We have already had 22% of our students grow to being on benchmark. Last winter at this time, we were at 17%, so our math interventions are working. And as of January, 50% of students were on track to meet their typical growth goal, and 31% were reaching their stretch goal. As you walked in today, you probably saw a bunch of Roadrunner feet or golden Roadrunners on our walls. That represents the amount of students that are meeting those goals. And if you see the green feet as you walk out of the gym, that represents the amount of students that have 90% attendance or better. So just a visual representation for our students. We also know that early literacy is a big part of what helps us be successful. We are helping do that by making sure we have daily ECRI instruction in grades K through 2 and Haggerty phonics in K1. We're using those to help bridge the gap with our third graders as well that are behind in their phonics instruction. We have smaller intervention class sizes or group sizes, targeted phonics screening to identify and address learning gaps early using the core phonics screener, and then regular intervention review meetings with classroom teachers, and our classified staff are part of those as well because they are the ones teaching the groups and are able to give input. Some other key priorities. Maybe. Thank you. Some other key priorities that we're committed to is increasing rigor and engagement through cell observations, discussions, and learning walks, enhancing our safety protocols by addressing bias incidents, threats of harm, and mental health needs by the end of each day. We have specific protocols that are taught to our staff and also to our substitutes to make sure that all types of threats and safety needs are met by the end of the day and followed up with families. We use behavioral data to improve our interventions and support plans and also build positive school culture by having monthly celebration assemblies where we celebrate birthdays, golden awards, and attendance. Moving on to next steps as we move forward, we want to increase the use of formative assessments to adjust our instruction. Periwinkle staff are really strong at unit map planning, looking at the purpose of lessons, looking at success criteria, but really using those formative assessments that we give daily of how we can adjust our instruction in the moment. We want to continue our focus on small group instruction for targeted learning and deepen our professional learning around the CEL 5D to enhance our teaching effectiveness. Maybe by the end of this, I'll have this clicker down. Some other points of pride and promise is our 5th grade Roadrunner ambassadors. This is the first year we've had them, and they really are just the point of pride right now. They are doing every job that we hand them. They set up the whole gym for a family bingo night. They help support kindergarten recess at the end of the day. They clean up equipment. They deliver all of the notes. They do recycling. They have special badges that they wear throughout the day that let them know that they have a special job. And they really take their jobs very responsibly and with a lot of pride. So I'm excited to see what they do for the rest of the year. We had Battle of the Books. We participated in the regional competition this last Saturday. We had 8 schools from Albany participate in Battle of the Books, and we were one of the 3 that's made it to the Sweet 16, or the elimination play. We have family engagement events such as Science Night, Math Night, Bingo. We'll have an art night coming up and our Spring Carnival. Our Golden Awards that focus on our guidelines for success. This month is focused on safety, and really a strong, cohesive staff that work together to support all students emotionally and academically. Periwinkle really has a staff that has stuck together and cheer each other on through everything. We just had Classified Appreciation Week, and our certified staff went all out to celebrate and share their appreciation for them. That is what I have for you tonight. Any questions?
Yeah, Alan.
Go ahead.
Can you remind me what DESA stands for?
I can't tell you exactly what it stands for, but it is our social emotional screener. It asks 7 questions for each student that teachers answer and rates the 7 competencies of CASEL.
So it's like a screener, so you just do it at the beginning of the year?
We do it 3 times throughout the year. And then students that are flagged as needing support, you do a more in-depth screener with them, and then it can break apart what level they are at each scale.
But it doesn't have a curriculum or anything, it's just the test
No,
itself.
it's just a screener.
It stands for Devereaux Student Strengths Assessment.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. The Google helped me out.
Go ahead, John.
So it looks like your math is showing more growth than the reading. Is there anything specific that you're doing because a lot of schools that we've seen have shown it, reading has shown more improvement than math. Is there anything that you're doing specifically that you could think that could be attributing to that, or is it just they're learning that better right now?
No, I think it is the dedicated math intervention time where we actually put our classified staff in the classrooms. The individualized iReady MyPath is a section, and then our classroom teachers have also been really diving into the iReady intervention lessons and some of the ways that they're teaching that math. The grade level is using those tools to really plan out units rather than kind of grabbing anything that's available to them. In addition, we've really targeted our Tier 3 interventions with Bridges intervention and Do the Math. They have different placement tests that we find are really helpful, and then it guides people straight to what lessons they should be using And we're finding that Bridges intervention matches more of the iReady way of teaching math. So it's not like you're trying to teach one thing in core, one thing in small group, and then one thing in intervention.
Awesome, thank you.
I like to see the 62 to 68% attendance. That's better for regular attenders. I mean, one thing that seems we hear over and over again is the attendance problems, you know? I mean, because when you say 68%, that's at 90%, right? That's a regular attendee.
Yep, so 68% of our students are here, 90% or more.
Right.
And I would say the last February was a rough month. There was a lot of norovirus and other sickness going on. Some other things that have helped, we do random school-wide rewards. So on a random day for the kids, the adults all know when it's happening, I come on the intercom and thank anybody that's here at school that day. At that time, they get to participate in extra recess, they get a treat. Next week, if they come a certain day, they get some crazy sunglasses. Every kid does. So it's just trying to celebrate being here in the moment.
That's one of the things that us who are older, is kind of hard to imagine. I mean, imagine only 2/3 of our kids are coming to school regularly. You know, that's kind of hard to imagine, you know, and it's really hard to catch up academically when, you know, 1/3 of the kids aren't showing up, right? So thank you very much for making improvement on that and doing everything you can to get kids into the class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's try it again. Bruce.
Chris Sullivan from Meadow Ridge Elementary School up for round
All right.
2.
Yep.
Hey, I think we've seen you before.
Here I am, round 2. I can tell because there's a butterfly dancing. Then I know. So yes, my name is Chris Sullivan. I am the principal of Meadow Ridge. At Meadow Ridge, our vision is to embrace a growth mindset to ensure high levels of learning for all, provide high-quality instruction, expect regular staff learning and collaboration. And our mission? We will provide high-quality instruction to ensure high levels of learning for all students. And the thing that sticks out to me about this is we will operate as a team. But first, before you can operate as a team, you have to build the team. Oh, I can see what you're talking about with this clicker now. Click. What about this button?
You got to hop on your left foot 3 times.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Someone know how this works? You couldn't figure it out, you just kept on pressing it? Okay, I'm going to do that. Oh, there was a button that wasn't on, it wasn't me. Okay, there we go. Aha! So there is building the team. Obviously, I don't have photos of the great work that's being done on our common preps, which we have common prep for all teams at this point so they can work together. But we have been putting together a lot of fantastic evening events, working together on Read Across America. Open House was a huge hit. Bringing in community partners, food trucks that also then kick back and then we can flesh out our library. This has been bringing in not just the building of the team of teachers and staff, but also building a team of parents and making students feel as they are part of what's going on at the school. There is no more important work at the school that has had so much leadership turnover than to build a solid foundation that we are all there, a trusting, supportive team. There are too many little kids in that place for us to do it alone. So when you have independent contractors, we can't do the important work. But once we get all together, there's nothing that we can't solve. There are about 70 some odd employees. We don't need anyone else. The answer is right there. We just need to work together. And there has been more growth than I could have expected this year on that team building. So I flip-flopped a little bit to talk about goal 3. And the reason is because goal 3 is foundational to the other goals. Goal 3 is to foster a positive and respectful environment in all common areas where students consistently demonstrate safe and responsible behavior. So that is important because that is your school-wide culture and behavior. How did I get to that goal? How did we arrive there? Well, our 23-24 expectation check data, meaning our referral data, 70% of the documented behaviors occurred outside of the classroom, meaning on the playground, in the hallways, in specials. that indicates an issue that definitely needs to be solved. But what really informed it for me was beginning of the year meetings with all staff. So any individual staff member that wanted my time could come in spring, throughout the summer, and I pretty much met with everybody. I did not share their individual thoughts, but I did look for themes. And the themes were very clear. Staff were worried about red zone student behavior. That was the biggest concern that I heard over and over again. Student behavior that was violent, out of control, kids, room clears, things of that nature. Students out of class and in hallways all the time. So they're being removed from class, being swooped up, kids running up and down hallways. Big issue for the staff. And then it doesn't seem like a big problem, but it is. Staff concern over bulletin boards being ripped down. I heard this from so many people. We can't put up student work in the hallway because someone will come right and rip it down. That is an issue of school culture, and it's hard to really take pride for students or staff in where they're at if things are halfway ripped down. So the action steps were pretty clear. Teaching and reteaching common area expectations. We have a slideshow that every teacher shows their kids, both at the beginning of the year and in winter. And hall passes. It's a pretty easy one. Kids wearing hall passes should be in the hallway. If they don't have a hall pass, staff are empowered to walk them back to where they belong. So even some of our more naughty kids were going back to class to grab a hall pass to then run back out. So at the very beginning of the year. We increased staffing during lunches and recesses. That's a big deal. More adults, more people to see what's going on. And then teacher-monitored recesses. So there are 3 recesses a day for elementary. 2 of those are run by the classroom teachers. There's no better person and they know their student best to be out with them. So we just do not have the behavior issues happening at those recesses. Promoting staff problem solving and creativity. Arriving to the school, there was a lot of what do you want me to do or what form do I fill out? Some of it is what do you think needs to happen? You know this kid best. What's your solution? And the teachers and the staff at Meadow Ridge are incredibly intelligent, gifted educators, and they're coming up with wonderful ideas to mold behavior in a positive way. And then golden awards that are presented monthly. If you are expecting certain behaviors in hallways, in the cafeteria, throughout your school, you want to circle back and recognize the kids for following your expectations. And so that brings us a little bit to Golden Awards. Golden Awards are across all common areas for kids. So in music, in PE, in the library, in our maker space, which is one of our specials, during our SEL special, for keeping the classroom clean, in the cafeteria during recess, in our hallways, again, one of the very biggest ones in the hallway, and then the Magnificent Monarch, which is the award I give out for best overall classroom behavior. So every month, kids get an opportunity to win an award across all of those areas. So you're seeing right up there, or right over here, 3rd grade awards. The 3rd grade team put this up themselves to track the awards. Kids stand out there and see what awards they've won for their great behavior. And it is really moving forward. Now they're getting competitive about who can have the best behavior. And some of it at the beginning of the year was not tearing down bulletin boards. You'll notice this one's still up, right? Is that, by keeping their behavior together, they can win all of this great stuff. They're actually working together as teams across a couple of classes. A kid came up to me and said, is it fair for 2 classes to work together to try to have the best behavior? And I'm like, whatever gets the best behavior, work with whoever you got. So it is, kids are getting competitive. Now 2nd grade wants one of these bulletin boards, and it is growing, and behavior is really great. If any of you have come to visit the school, you have probably seen that the hallways are clear. And that feeds into our ability to teach. So that's how it informs the teaching at the school. So our goal number 2, 75% of students will achieve their individual iReady stretch growth goal in math by June 2025. Growth as of January was at 45%. What we were expecting is 50%. That's still pretty darn good considering we had some hiccups at the beginning of the year. and kids didn't get as many days. Stretch growth as of January, 23%. We're expecting to see that much higher when we reassess in May. Action steps, again, goal number 3. If you have clear hallways, kids can have intervention groups in those alcoves. If you have good behavior throughout the school, kids aren't dysregulated, so they can be in class and learning. We have our small group support. Common prep is a big deal. When teachers have the time together every day, they can look at problems of practice and plan those together. And every day, those teachers have that time together. And one of the things that they have come up with, particularly with 3rd grade, is some of the hiccups that we're having is because of fluency. So focusing on fluency with math, because if you're stumbling with your simple multiplication, it's hard to move on to other things. Let's move on. All right, and to goal number 1. 80% of students will achieve their individual iReady stretch growth goal in reading by June 2025. Growth as of January, 57%. We're really proud of that. And our stretch growth as of January, 31%. Again, I put it on here. What are the action steps? Have a well-regulated school where behavior isn't the issue, so we can focus on learning. Regular data collection and analysis. Our wonderful reading coach has really empowered teachers to look at the data, to make adjustments to meet student needs. Daily small groups and interventions are making a huge difference. And again, not to belabor the point, but those groups happen in our hallways very often. And now those are very conducive learning environments. And that consistent Tier 1 instruction. We are trending green and dropping red very quickly. Kids are proud to be at school, they're learning. Early literacy, like many schools, elementary schools, we are focused on ECRI and Hegarty. We're starting on UFly, another great science of reading program. And we're using that data to drive instruction forward. The SEL special that we have, where we're teaching kids traits of how to behave and how to be a good learner at school, are really paying off. I am seeing some wonderful imaginative play. Kids are organizing themselves in games outside at a higher level than I usually expect of kindergartners. They're able to engage and disengage into play or other activities at a very high level. And a lot of that I attribute to our smaller class sizes. The teachers are able to meet every single kids at their instructional level. And when we have 80% right now of students on track, it means that when they go into 1st grade, those teachers aren't scrambling to find materials to meet the deficit. They can use their curriculum. The kids are ready. So and then when kids are ready and they're at grade level, behavior isn't there. They don't have a reason to run out of a classroom where they can access everything. And right now, 87% of them have mastery of letter sounds. That is huge. And 55% of them, and I believe this as of January, already reading CVC words. We are hoping to see that at 100% at the end of the year too, obviously. But what we have right now is one of the best behaved groups of kindergartners, learners. It is absolutely magic, the kindergarten right now. And I would love to see that replicate year after year, what I'm seeing in there. Other key priorities is to increase family and community events. Yes, I put Fiesta over there in the corner because we do want to make this a fun environment for kids. Kids go to school if they feel like they belong. Fun things are going to happen. It's a great place to be. So increasing family and community events, increasing volunteerism. Streamlining and simplifying systems. I have been principal of a few schools. And if you come into a school and there's so many systems going on and so many different initiatives, it gets confusing. Substitutes don't know what to do. They don't know how things run. My general rule of thumb is if you've got 5-year-olds in your building, 5-year-olds need to understand your systems. They need to be able to show up to school and know how things work. And so we are going to streamline and simplify our systems moving forward. Working together to build an amazing team. We have an astonishing staff. It is one of the best staffs I've ever worked with. But when I got there, there's a lot of independent contractors, sometimes in packs of 2s or 3s. What we need to do is extend that out so that we're a full working team together, and then there's nothing that could stop us. Increase student and staff attendance by making Meadow a great place to be. It sounds like it's fluffy, but it's not. The places you go to are the places that you feel like you belong. I want staff to feel that they belong there and they're valued. And I want kids to feel like they're valued and that's their school. When you have that, attendance goes way up. And the way to do that, one of those keys is through long-term leadership. It disappeared. Oh, hold on there. Okay, next steps. So we have really worked hard on Tier 3 behavior. Kids running, ripping things down, a lot of room clear kind of things. Those are now down to, frankly, nothing. So, and then we've built up our Tier 1. We have, we're common areas, common expectations. So we're gonna work on some of those Tier 2 behaviors proactively, tracking those, and then coming up with plans. You don't track data for things that you're not going to solve. So we're, like even this week, we are looking at mild disrespect from second graders. We're tracking where that's happening, and then we respond exactly with curriculum. Kids need to learn. Behavior is also a thing that you need to learn. Okay, so points of pride and promise. When I looked at this slide, I actually put it out to my whole staff. So I was like, what are you guys proud about? What do you feel good about at Meadow Ridge so far this year? Because I could say what I think, but maybe it's not on point. So they actually, tons of staff filled this out. I gave you all the link. I hope that you'll take the time to read it. There is a lot of pride in where we're at and where we're going, and it felt really good to read. Now, what I did was I took all of those comments and I cut and pasted them into ChatGPT. And then I said, what are the common themes of these quotes? And this is what it came up with. Positive and supportive environment. That is, and when you're reading these quotes, you'll see that in there. Strong relationships and communication. This also, reading the quotes of how people are feeling at work, that there's approachable administration. They can come with problems, that we can solve things together. Was something they said wasn't happening, and to read right now that people feel like it is wonderful. Creative and engaging learning opportunities. We have, every kid has access to the garden. When I got there, it was very much utilized as a place to take kids that were misbehaving to kind of take a break. Now it is a part of every single kid's curriculum. We have the makerspace where kids are making art and they absolutely love it. And then there's 3 more. Student-centered focus. Many of those quotes were just talking about how we're talking about kids. We're not talking about bureaucracy or this is the only way to do it. We're talking about individual kids and how we can meet their needs. And that is part of building that team. And obviously something I couldn't write myself, or it'd be kind of weird, but strong leadership and visibility. But what I have really attempted to do is not come in as a manager, but come in a leadership role, which means you got to build those relationships and you've got to be everywhere. So walking the halls, I would be putting, especially getting there, that school is Mall of America sized. So I was putting in 20,000 steps a day. Popping in, talking to teachers before and after school. I'm back up there. And then celebrating success and teamwork. We still have a long ways to go in building this team, but we are making a ton of progress. I am seeing people talking that I didn't see talking at the beginning of the year. And I hear a lot of student-focused talking. How do we solve this? How can we get a kid someplace? How can we make their learning experience better? How can we reach out to a family? So I'm seeing it's like breaking up an ice flow, but people are enjoying time together and they're solving problems. And then, any questions?
Go ahead, Brad.
Hey, Chris. So tonight was the first night we met. And before now, I've just been having to deal with rumors and innuendo.
Uh-oh.
But of how well you're doing.
Oh.
All positive. You have taken a problem building and turned it around with you and your staff. Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to seeing how your year ends up and to see the growth that you've been able to achieve, because I think there's some real nuggets in what you do that can be shared across the district to help all the schools achieve this level of improvement. So thank you, and thank you, your staff, for doing such a fabulous job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a quick question. I didn't see it anywhere. It might have been on the difference between the presentation we got and the one that was up there. Was there anything about attendance?
I didn't put attendance on there. I believe that we are at 66% regular attenders, which is, again, not what I like to see or hear myself. But I do believe we're going to get, we're going to bump that up by making this such an inclusive environment. So I am very hopeful that by having these evening events, by including families, and just making it where kids want to get there every single day, that we're going to see a colossal bump in that attendance rate, particularly going through next year. It also has to be, and I know everyone gets sick, it's not but staff setting that mold, like if they're part of a team, attendance goes up there too. So we're setting the standard of everyone comes to work, and so that kids want to come to school too.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hear great things and great job. And, I really like hearing you talk about the collaboration and the teamwork. It's the only way to effectively run a school. So that's really good news, and I'm glad we're hearing good things.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Andy.
So behind you, you have some of your support system there. And I want to recognize Sue Luther, the elementary director, but I know that there is a couple of people there that have been instrumental in your success, and you're looking right at them. So you want to have them introduced?
This is Kelly Longoria. She's absolutely fantastic. She's our coach, and she helped me put a lot of this presentation together. So,
thanks for coming, Kelly.
Yeah, I told her she should just stay at home, but she came to be very supportive. Absolutely fantastic coach, and is really is part of the leadership in that building. She's the one working with staff to start looking at their numbers and coming up with solutions. Good. So, fantastic person.
And then Heidi Weatherall is our district MTSS coordinator.
And she is wonderful in all ways. Yes.
Yeah, very instrumental.
I would
Thank
just
you.
say the same thing. I've heard nothing but good things about the school this year, so you all deserve to feel very proud and know it's moving in the right direction. So thank you for your hard work.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I
Chris.
invite everyone to come by and visit. It's great staff. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, consent agenda, memorandum of understanding. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the memorandum of understanding GA ACE work injury as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next up is contract renewals, extensions.
Mr. Chairman, could I just
Sure.
add on the classified union president Craig is in the audience, and she was correct in the listening session. We did do some work on this, and we know that some of the kids, of course, are always going to propose challenges to us, but we appreciate their work to come to an agreement. Thank you, Liz.
Okay, contract renewals, extensions.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve license and administrator renewals extensions as presented.
I'll second.
And I'm going to preclude myself. My wife's a teacher, but it won't affect what happens here. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One abstain. Okay, next up, personnel licensed.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve personnel license as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? H4, personnel classified.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve personnel classified as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up, minutes, regular board meeting, 2/24/25.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve minutes regular board meeting of February 24th, 2025 as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next up, old business. Don't have any reports. Operational bond report. Mr. Bolin.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to share with you operations report. If you jump to the next slide. I think they're driving for me back there. So we continue to make strides with this. We continue to use this chart that I'm showing you to guide our work in each of our departments. It's an important document for us. Next slide. And one of the ways that we can achieve this is by making visitations to our schools, being present, interacting with staff. And so simply, I believe in what you monitor will grow and improve, and this is one way we can monitor that. And if we're not getting to a certain building, so these are the visitations of the directors of each of the departments I supervise. You can see we had a lot of visitations of Sunrise because of the HVAC project we had this summer. So, and then the middle school is next. Again, high visibility there, and again the high schools. We had a little bit more visitations to South Albany High School. We have a few more mechanical issues there than other schools was the reason for that. But again, great job of my staff getting into buildings, meeting with principals, solving issues at the school site. So I greatly appreciate their efforts there. So next we have transportation highlights. One of the things I wanted to mention is we established a collaborative effort between the special education department and the transportation department to really work on supporting our students on our special needs buses and our drivers as well. So we've started discussions about how might we have greater success there, making sure our kids get to school ready to learn and get home ready to be kids at home. So that's going really well. I'm really pleased with the work that's being done, and we have some great staff putting some great thought into that. Hiring's been outstanding. I haven't always mentioned that in the last couple of years, but hiring's been really good, and I'm really pleased with the work that they've done with advertising, recruiting. Been impressive this year. Let's see, next one. Facilities. I'd like to highlight their weather preparations this year were much better than the prior year. We learned from prior year and made a lot of improvements after 2 years ago, and this year was much better. What we did the night before a possible weather event turned out to be very beneficial to the next day. We also had maps of each school, so when we sent staff to the schools, they knew where to clear, where were the high priority areas to take care of. That really helped us as well. So the night custodians in each of the buildings really helped us out the night before, and I think it was a pretty successful event. We used a lot of de-icer across the district. I think in prior years we've used 1 pallet, and over the last 3 years we went through 2 pallets this year. So we laid down a lot of ice melt to be able to prepare our schools for safety of our staff and our students getting to school. So that was good. This summer, the North Albany Middle School unit ventilators are slated to be installed in each of the classrooms. That'll finish that project. Spring break's really about completing work orders, and then we're really working hard on planning for heat mitigation activities in the springtime, making sure we're preparing our buildings the best we can to respond to any hot days. And again, work orders, again, what you monitor will improve. Our work orders, you can see that there was a bunch created and there was a bunch resolved, so that's what we like to see. And I wanted to highlight too, facility use. Our buildings are used a lot in the evening times. We had 960 total events in the month of February in our buildings. And that's a lot of work for our custodians in the morning. Chrissy, new hire in facilities, is doing a great job of monitoring that. 682 are community events, 144 with athletic, 134 internal, and we're bringing in income there between 150 and 200,000 this year, which is, I think, a first for the district. Next slide. And then technology, again, outstanding effort with work orders and completing those. They do a great job of responding. The wireless controller migration was completed, and I'll explain that in my terms. So it's the brains that make that access point run there have been replaced. Kathy in the back could explain it in more detail. We are slated to get new wireless access points in all of our middle schools over spring break, and that'll bring us all up to current level of technology. We are continuing to explore our voice over internet protocol, our new phone system. I believe that will happen this summer if all goes well, and that has about a 16-month payoff, and that will be a huge cost savings to the district moving forward. And then they're also working on their E-rate planning moving forward as well. So all is good there as well. And that's the end of that report.
Dave,
Yeah.
great job to you and your team. You know, I hear that from the building people, so great job. Thank you for all your team does. I think you're right, tracking it and letting everybody know what we're doing, and they're appreciated, it really works. So, no other questions? Okay, no new business. New business, we have K1, Genuine Foods presentation. Dave, you're up again.
Yeah, I'd like to start. You've been hearing me since about January. We were talking about exploring new food service management companies, and I just want to review real quick our process. Then I got some people I want to introduce. We received approval from the ODE to offer a one-year non-competitive contract. Just want to remind you of that. We did do some market research. We asked 2 companies to do on-site visits in January. Genuine Foods, which is here tonight, completed a 3-day on-site. They visited all of our schools. They also held 2 open sessions that we had 25 staff members attend. All 25 staff members gave 100% approval of that company, and they asked for me to extend an RFP to them, which I did. So they've submitted an RFP. It's met all the legal requirements of an RFP, and was impressed with what they have in there, and you have a copy of that in your board packet. One of the things that really impressed me the most about them, not only during the on-site, but in my review of their RFP, is they use words like commitment, partnership, listening, transparency, trusting, and people first. And that really stood out to me about Genuine Foods. But you've heard enough from me tonight about that. I'd like to bring up Lori Robinson from South Albany High School, Deborah Carroll from the middle school, if they could come up. Lori's been with us for 23 years. Deborah's been with us for 11 and a half years. They were part of my team that I pulled together to help in this exploration. They are both our kitchen leads at South Albany High School and the Memorial Middle School, and they do a great job. And they'd like to share a little bit about the program and Genuine Foods with you tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Deborah, so I'm at Memorial Middle School Base Kitchen. We need to make changes in our food service. Genuine Food has caught our attention in a good way. They can bring us better quality food and bring back scratch cooking, which is very important. Genuine Foods computer program looks amazing. We really got blown away by what we had saw and learned, and we would like to be able to implement that into our school district. We would like to vote yes on behalf of Genuine Food to be part of our team, and we hope that you guys like them as well.
Thank you. I'm Lori Robinson. I'm here just because of the kids. That's my passion. I've been here a long time, and I can't tell you enough how happy it makes me when I see them smile and say, oh, that was so good. I've been trying new things this last couple weeks, and these kids are coming back. When are you going to make that next time? It's not something that's always on the menu. So I want to see the menu expand so these kids are happy and not just getting cheeseburgers and chicken sandwiches every day and hot dogs. I want them to have something real and good and go home and say, hey, Mom, you got to make this. You know, that's how I feel. I mean, I've felt that way since the day I started here in 2001. And I send food out to 4 after-school programs, too, and I'd like to see them expand on different food. I just feed a lot of kids, and I want to make them happy.
Some fresh fruit,
Yeah,
definitely.
in season.
Yes, in season.
But that's really all we have to say, but we're just hoping that good changes can come and that we can improve our program.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
So now I'd like to introduce Tim Waldsmith, the Senior Vice President of Genuine Foods, and Jen Calloway, who's the Chief Program Officer. They're going to share more about Genuine Foods. I'm really excited to have them here, and I'm truly excited for our students and staff to may have an opportunity to have them working here this spring.
This spring, right. Thank you, Dave.
You
We
bet.
appreciate it. That's a tough act to follow. Really thank Lori and Deborah. One of the things I'd like to start with is to members of the board, Superintendent Gardner. You've opened up your district to us, and you've opened up your community to us, and we really appreciate that and respect that. As a brand, Genuine Foods prides itself on, we do not bid on everything. We do not engage with all school districts. We look for districts that want to be cutting edge and want to make sure their children are getting nutritious meals and have variety, and we're removing processed foods and doing scratch cooking. And I just applaud you for everything you do and everything I've heard here tonight. And once again, thank you for your time. Now I have to work the clicker. Okay. Got it. Okay. So a little bit about Genuine Foods. So we operate in 17 states. We are all executives from some of the larger food service companies that had worked across this country, and we wanted to go back to scratch cooking in schools. We believe that the students deserve that, and it fuels their education process, and it was very important for us to create a brand that would allow us to partner with the right districts to do so. Part of what we do is very important is we listen, and we engage with students, with faculty, with parents, and members of the community. We believe in surveying and engaging, making sure that the students have a voice in what's going on this plate. And to listen to one of the presenters earlier in the listening session spoke about their child and how unhappy they were with the quality of food and also the quantity. Now, the quantity is restricted by the National School Lunch Program because of specific nutrient counts. But what's important to us is when you put it on the plate, that it's acceptable and the students want to eat it instead of taking it just because it is what was provided. So we work very closely with the team and the staff to make sure that we're constantly addressing any menu changes and putting items forward that are both healthy, scratch cooked, and acceptable to the student palate. Genuine, the difference in our brand, as I spoke a little bit about, how we started, is we're regionally inspired. We believe in the region we're operating in, and here we are in the Pacific Northwest, is looking at items on the menus that make sense to your community, to make sense to your students, to make sense to what they would like to eat at home if their parents or family members would make a scratch-cooked meal. So we include those things and we incorporate them into our menu planning, and we welcome those changes. We're agile, we're nimble, and we're collaborative. And that is, that is really one of the key takeaways from our brand. A little bit about our values. Our values are, Dave mentioned it earlier, but trustworthiness. What I stand here today as the head of the K-12 division, what I say is what we'll deliver. We bring it every day is what the top thing on that list says. And that's true. And we believe it's people first, and we work with the team and develop the team and help them hone their skills. They're not food service workers. These are culinary team members that want to do more. You just heard two ladies speak tonight about their desire to do more, do better. Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to help them open that up to allow them to hone their skills and in turn increase participation and have more students eating healthy meals. The next slide here will hit some of the items that we talked about earlier. I think a couple key points on here is, good food helps children learn. And the big part of this is to make sure that we're, reducing hunger, and you've probably heard the phrase food insecurities, and making sure that people and students and children at all age groups are comfortable with eating school lunch, are comfortable with the products they're getting so that they know they're wholesome and they come from a good place. And that's a huge focus on how we develop our programs. We believe purchasing local within a 200-mile radius from farms is a key to success. You heard, the two team members speak about fresh fruits and vegetables, and Jen, my colleague, will speak to that in more detail. But 15% of our purchases are going to come from local direct farmers in the market, and we will market them on their behalf, so to make sure that they're getting the recognition for serving your children. 95% of the menu items on our menu are scratch cooked. So when, I was giving you an example of that, if it's beans, we're not opening up a can. We're you're taking dry beans, you're soaking them overnight, you're seasoning them, you're doing it appropriately. It retains the nutritional integrity of that product, and it's a better wholesome product for the students to eat. And then with that, we see some opportunity for increasing your participation. I heard a lot about your attendance rates tonight from the principals and what's happening with attendance in the district. We took that into consideration. We understand that. We understand what your current participation rates are, and we also understand what national trends are. So we looked at some things that could really help drive and increase participation to have more children eating. Some of the highlights on here is the fresh scratch cooked meals that we talked about. We're also going to add some additional pop-up stations in some of the secondary schools to allow for more points of service, more opportunity for students to eat in the limited time frames between bells, and have more options available with the various stations. We're going to have some some special events such as outdoor grilling stations and some live cooking demonstrations, such as an Iron Chef scenario. It's all about engaging the students, engaging the community, engaging the faculty to be part of your community. Now, that being said, I'm going to transition to Jen. I will be back to answer some questions if there are any. Jen is our Chief Program Officer, and she will take it from here.
Thank you, everyone. So I oversee the food supply chain for Genuine Foods, and I also collaborate with the culinary team for opening up any new accounts. Go back one slide. So we've heard a lot about local procurement tonight. We really believe at Genuine Foods that everything starts with ingredients. You can't get to fresh, scratch-cooked meals without the best ingredients, and the best ingredients are the freshest, and the freshest ingredients are the closest. So this slide just shows some of the farms that we plan to work with. We're already operating in Oregon, so our food supply chain is established, but we want to take it a step further. Fortunately, Oregon has a really great farm-to-school network, and Lynn County has 2 procurement specialists just devoted to this area of the state. So in addition to the vendors that we already have, we plan to work with them to really figure out how we can get more direct-to-farm in your backyard. Oops, let's go back one slide. So, one of the things that are, So, with this kind of lift, it really is going to take a phased approach, and we want to sort of focus on 5 key steps. The engaging and listening has already started. As Dave mentioned, we were here in January. Everyone was really generous with their time, both letting us poke around in their kitchens and then coming, for 2 afternoons to share everything on their mind about the aspirations for the program and how they want to see things change. And that's going to lead directly into our menu development phase. One of the things that I think sets us apart as a company, we heard a lot earlier about how things can be top down, especially when you're working in a big institution. And some of that is necessary to sort of be able to set the standards. But what we do is we propose a menu, and then we work with the leads and the students and teachers to really kind of figure out how can we make this be custom to gaps. We do not take a cookie cutter approach when it comes to menus. That's because we really want to respect the regional traditions of where we're working. And so for us, that means making sure that the menu reflects the community that we're serving. And then additionally, a huge piece of what's going to make this successful is culinary training. So, we don't want to assume a certain level of culinary skill for everyone in the kitchen. Obviously, you have the veterans like Lori and Deborah, but there's a lot of, potential culinaries in this district, and we want to make sure that we can, tap that excitement and that enthusiasm and ensure that they feel prepared. So what that's going to look like is a focus on 5 big buckets. Storage and organization is really sort of the foundation of making sure that you run a clean and productive kitchen. We're going to focus on knife skills. We're going to focus on mise en place, and that's just, general production planning so that when our folks get into the kitchen every morning, they know what needs to be done and how it's going to be successful. And then a huge piece that I think is often overlooked is really figuring out how to build flavor. A hamburger doesn't have to just be a hamburger. How can we switch up the bun? How can we switch up the toppings? Can we get to the point where we're actually making our own patties and cooking those from scratch? But that's a phased approach, and it's something that we've done across the country. And so we'll work with every school to really kind of figure out who are those culinary champions, what kind of train the trainer items can we implement to really ensure that the teams feel, we want to harness that excitement, but the quickest way that excitement is going to get dampened is if folks don't feel prepared. And so culinary training is going to be just a really critical part of what we want to implement. And it's also one of the reasons why we push to start in the spring, so that we can sort of really set that foundation, do a really great assessment, get any additional equipment if we need to, so that when the kids come back in the fall, like we've already had a head start, and we can really make sure that folks feel prepared and, ready to serve. So in terms of the transition plan, Tim mentioned that we're going to have all of our K-12 division on site. We have a 90-day pre and a 90-day post. And then in addition to having the operations and culinary team here, we're also going to have specialists that are really going to help us put together a well-rounded program. So that's procurement specialists from my team, menu and compliance specialists, and marketing, because we want to make sure that the students not only see the difference in the program, but that we put the wraparound program, the wraparound support around the new programs, and so that they really understand how things are different. And the only way that we're going to be able to do this is to have boots on the ground here, standing side by side with your team. And so this just gives you a sense of the names and the positions of the folks that you will see in your schools. Sorry. Okay. And the last thing that we really wanted to end on is sort of what we want to accomplish together. I think the most important thing about any school food program is to make sure that the students feel heard. It's not enough to, get that feedback but not implement it. And so, in addition to restarting the normal, I believe you guys used to have student committees, we want to make sure that that gets re-implemented and that you actually see the changes in the menu. We're not going to get it 100% right the first time, but because we're going to have those feedback loops in place, we will be able to quickly adjust and continuously improve and refine the program so that it reflects what you guys really want and what you're really going to eat. And for the district, we understand that obviously first and foremost you want to meet your fiscal goals, but you don't want to compromise quality. And I think that's the piece that is a fine balance, but it's something that we've worked really hard on in terms of putting together our proposal and making sure that it's doable, but that it does take the program up another notch. And then, apologies. The last point we wanted to make is for the district's families. Not only do we want to increase engagement, but we want to make sure that, if we're standing here at a meeting, 3 months from now, the question isn't, when are things going to change, but the question is going to be, how can we take it to the next level? And that's always our goal. We know that, food is working with people and perishable ingredients, so the amount of variables are endless. And what sort of sets companies apart is how quickly they can react and adjust, and how well they listen. And those are things that are baked into our DNA as Genuine Foods. And so we just really look forward to partnering with you all. And again, really appreciate the generosity that you guys have showed us all so far. Thank you.
So any questions for us? Roger?
Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I do. And so define scratch cooked for me. What's that mean to you, and what's that mean to the district as you talk about it?
You want to take it?
Sure. I mean, it's a focus on raw ingredients. So I think a lot of what has been a challenge for food at the institutional level, where you're using volume, that means you're relying on ingredients that are pre-cooked. And for us, we really focus on those raw ingredients, and that's why we really want to focus on the things that allow you to work with the raw ingredients. So if you don't have knife skills, then you aren't going to know how to cut potatoes correctly or cut onions correctly. If you don't know how to, store and organize your walk-in refrigerator, then you're not going to want to order those ingredients, because then things are going to go bad. So for us, it just really is thinking about the raw ingredients, and the less ingredients, the better.
So there's a lot at play in the food industry and the hospitality industry right now, and in education. I mean, so I have more questions, but my next question is for Jane. Jane, does the math work?
I think so.
Okay. And so it seems all across America, the trend is the opposite of what you're talking about. There's a fairly nice restaurant in town that I go to, not often enough, but it's part of a national chain, and I'm learning that I've been eating really expensive TV dinners, prepackaged from a kitchen somewhere else. They show up frozen, and it's still good. But in your mind, I don't consider that to be scratch cooking. And the trend is to decrease labor costs everywhere and any way you can.
Right.
And this program looks like it will increase labor costs, or you're going to give additional training and just improve an investment in those folks doing that work, improve the outcome that they're providing for kids. And so based on, and then we'll throw in what reimbursement we're not going to get from the federal government for meals, and what all of that is. And so just your general thoughts on all of that. And it sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, so I appreciate that. It's a great question, and it's a multi-part question. A couple things. When we're talking about the federal government, I think we've all learned that we can't predict the unpredictable, especially right now. What I will say is the National School Lunch Program is regulated by the Department of Agriculture, not by the Department of Education. And there has not really been any significant plans for cutting of that. And when we start looking at potential changes to that program and taking food off of children's plates, it becomes a very politicized issue. And I think that, in our opinion as brands, and this is not just Genuine, it's across our industry, these are things we're talking about at the legislative level, that we do not believe there's going to be any cuts there. What we could see is the minimizing of increased reimbursements. And with that being said, every year reimbursement rates tend to go up around 3%. I think Jane took a fairly conservative approach when she looked at potential increases in around 2 to 2.5%, just because we do not know. But in general, you see the reimbursement rates increase by about 3%. Our food cost in our proposed price is higher than what you are currently getting. There's no hiding behind that. We are not a low-cost product, but it still works within the budgetary guidelines of what we need to do to serve the children. And then that participation increase will help offset that. Everything is driven by the number of meals you serve. And the more meals we serve means more kids are eating, which means there's more reimbursements, which ultimately will balance that budget. So we hear your concerns, we value them, we understand, but we are not concerned about the ability to provide the fresh cooked scratch meals here.
Yeah, and I would just add on the labor piece, because we are going to be phasing in the scratch cooking, we're going to make sure that the meals that we start with fit within the labor models. So we're not going to go from 0 to 100 on day one. What that does is that folks will feel comfortable, which means that they will be quicker. And then additionally, we've already identified some really kind of key pieces of equipment that will enable us to do scratch cooking without increasing labor. So things like stand mixers for baking, which also double, they have different attachments that can help us process raw vegetables without cutting them via a knife. Robocous, which are basically, a food processor, but 10 times the size that you would have in your house. So we'll be looking at all of those types of affordable and easy to learn how to use pieces of equipment that are going to minimize any of those labor increases. And then again, as people practice, they will get quicker and it will, balance itself out.
So does our staff, and I'm sorry, can I keep going, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I don't have very many of these left to do, and I want to relish the moment. So have we talked with our staff about what this means and the additional work and the different work that it will require, and have they bought into that?
Absolutely. That's the numbers that I've given you. Most of this will be done in our base kitchens. You had the 2 leads tonight, our base kitchens. We'll still be shipping food out to our schools like our current model. So all this will be done in the base kitchens, and then we ship this out to the schools.
But I think it's more, I would expect we're feeding how many kids?
Boy.
Let me just make,
9,000.
I'm an elected official, so I'll just make up a number.
6,000.
6,000,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So that's more than 2 people doing the prep work for 6,000 meals a day.
Oh, yeah, we have full teams at Memorial, and South is our biggest kitchen, yeah.
So we have or will talk with them about buying?
They've all been involved, you bet.
They've all been involved, okay. And so then my last question on this subject would be.
Sure you want to say that? Your last question?
On this subject. So we grow things very well. We great fruits, great vegetables here in the Willamette Valley. But it's all, you would expect to consume that in the fall. What are you going to serve in January and February? And how's that, without getting very far?
That's fair. You're talking about seasonality, and that's right up Jen's.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously the winter, there's going to be less, but you're always going to have things like root vegetables, and what we will look to do is to use things that are in abundance when we can. So the most amount of fresh produce are probably going to be on the plate from, May to September. But there are things being grown year-round. It's just what's going to change is the amount that's going to be Oregon grown. But every month of the year, there are going to be things that we can source locally. And a lot of the local food hubs, too, are doing added value things. So freezing things that we can serve year-round that may not grow but are flash frozen, which we do consider to be scratch because it preserves all the nutrients. So we're pretty practiced at sort of making the most of what's available year-round. And the vendors that we work with, we communicate with them constantly so we know what's available, and we'll work with the team to work things in. I was really, really impressed to see the number of salad bars in your buildings across the district, and that's a really easy, low stress way to introduce more local food without, you know, the added prep.
Roger, there was one additional thing on in the presentation, which I believe is, you probably have a more clear version than this. There was a grid that had it by month on fresh fruits, and there's another tab for vegetables, so it kind of gives you an idea of how.
But we
when we're
can
looking at
send that
menu
as a
plan.
follow-up, so you can
Okay.
have a
No,
sense of.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I have no more questions on this issue.
Hey, Roger, I do just want to add one thing. We have struggled to be able to take advantage of farm-to-school grants with the current menu, but with this program, I believe we can apply for those grants and be able to spend the farm-to-school grants.
Okay. Thank you.
Sean?
Yeah, I had a general question similar along the line of Roger's. So it does seem like there's a lot of upfront initial investment, both in training and like facilities investments that will need to be made. What's the general like time frame at? Because you said it's an implemented rollout to the scratch cooking. So what can our staff be looking forward to in terms of like how long is the training process? Is it going to be, hey, next year we're doing this, or is it in 2, 3? Where's that phase in at?
No, absolutely. So we'll start with, the contract would start in May 5th, it's a Monday. So we're gonna start with some of the basic culinary skills and working with the team. We've already identified our leadership team members that will be on site and located here in the district. And so we'll arrange those trainings and start working with them. We'll take the menus and we'll get buy-in from the staff and team members. And then we'll start phasing in scratch cooking into those menus during this tail end of this year. Gives us a 45-day start to next year, so that when we start the school year, you know, we could be at 40% scratch cooked, and then by the end of the year next year, the next time we're having this conversation or giving an end-of-year report, we've reached that 95% goal. So it does take some time, it takes some phasing, and, you know, the team has been great, your local team, the nutrition services team. You know, they've reviewed our job descriptions, they understand what we're asking or things that are in their job descriptions, but they're doing other things that are non-food productive, that will be able to be supplanted and replaced without driving incremental labor costs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just want to say I'm excited. I think it's great. All the key items that you guys present, the fact that I've talked to some food service people, they all seem very excited. You know, I think the parents will be very excited. I think it's going to be great. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Were there any other questions?
Yeah,
Brad?
so is this a one-year contract initially?
Yes, sir. It's a 1 year. All the contracts for through ODE are 1 year with options to renew. This being an emergency contract, you will have to do a competitive RFP next year, which our plan is we have a 1 year to solidify our impact on this district, so that we're here for a long term.
Okay, so just because I have some budgetary concerns, but a one-year trial basis really gives us a good look at it to see if we can get the grants and can make the budget work. Because I'm all for the improved. Yeah, I hear what you're doing here. He's got some more questions, which is the funny part of this is it happens all the time.
No, I
That's
heard.
why he always says no more questions, and it's like, okay, yeah, right, Roger.
I was warned, so.
And so, you know, there's a definite need for improvement in our food quality, and we've heard about that for quite a while, and so we just have to deal with the budgetary constraints, and I'm hoping we can get there, so thank you.
Thank you.
This is exciting.
Thanks, Pete.
Mr. Chairman, there's a motion.
Yep.
I'll do it during discussion.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize GAPS to execute a contract with Genuine Foods following the approval of the contract by the Oregon Department of Education.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Discussion.
He said you were done. Okay, discussion. What do you got, Roger?
I'm making a statement now. I can't ask any more questions.
Okay.
So I didn't hear what the emergency was. And so we're doing this as a
It's just the term of the contract. ODE is approved due to the quality of food that we've been receiving and a mutual agreement of Sedesco. that they would issue a one-year emergency contract.
Okay.
Allow us to do that.
That would also then explain the question I wanted to ask but didn't, why we would do this now versus get a clean break to the next school year. Because normally that's, because I would expect that there are going to be some things that there'll be changes, and no matter how good the change is, there will be some disruption with the change. And so I would just, those are my observations, and I have no more statements or questions.
And that I don't believe.
Yes.
But I think, if I recall, and Dave and Jane, you can weigh in here, that Sedesco has been having some financial difficulties with our menu. And so they're motivated by the fact that it's not quite working for them.
Some of the contracts that 5 years ago, for example, breakfast was a 3-to-1 reimbursement. The new contract, OD is transitioning out of those, so the price structure of the contracts is a little bit different now, and OD is transitioning new contracts to a little bit different model that makes it more profitable for companies to come in underneath that structure, so that's part of it, yes. Having a May 5th start is a way for them to get to know our staffs, to do some on-site training, and really prepare for a launch in August. Sedesco has been great in discussing this transition with us. The commodity order is due March 12th. They are prepared, and I've been working with Sedesco to do commodity orders that will support that program. So Sedesco has been nothing but supportive through this process. We've been communicating and are ready for the transition. They have temporary people currently on site in management roles in our district that are waiting for the decision tonight on how we're moving forward. So they've been in a holding pattern with this as well, but have been really supportive through this process.
Good. Okay. No more questions.
So I will be voting for the measure, some small degree, because if Mrs. Nyquist found out I didn't, I would be in trouble when I got home. And in addition, it's not my intent in voting for this that district funds that normally go to pay direct classroom activity be used for this new program.
Right. Okay, we're at the vote. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great
Yeah,
presentation. Excited to see it go. I think that'll be great. We got no future agenda items, other business. Comments from the public. We didn't have any submissions to do any in-person public comment. Yes. Yes. So that has been put in place, but no one is using it. So next up is, anyone have
what?
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
All in favor to adjourn?
We need a second.
Well, did
Aye.
Ryan have something to say?
Oh, you have something to say, Ryan?
No.
Okay. All in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.